This could be a standard climbing movie with a bit of snowboarding, but I believe this one has a slight twist to it. It all starts here in the north branch of the Routeburn, Mount Aspiring National Park. This whole story basically came together, I guess, because of curiosity, basically, of adventure, of just wanting to know what's over that next ridge. Myself and a good friend, Jonathan Carr, were up there hunting for the elusive red deer. We're walking up the valley in the afternoon. Almost didn't make it as Jono fell headfirst into a river and got completely drenched. But luckily we carried on up the valley into the rock bivvy, and then the next day we headed on up onto the terraces about 1,300 metres above sea level, and we hike up onto a little rock kind of to get around a little path, and we find this little rock hole, kind of a cave thing, and we push the heebies aside, wriggle into this cave, and it opens up. We get our head torches on, and I'm like, Jono, imagine we find moa bones. And no lie, straight away, Jono's like, pokes his head around the corner, what's this? Turns out it's a really rare moa, and to top it off, there's an egg with it.
So there we were in this cave. Josh had just asked me, imagine we found some moa bones. I looked down at my feet and there were these white bones, and I was like, come check this out. I reached down, picked up the pelvis, and beneath the pelvis was an egg. But it was very obvious that we'd found something pretty significant. So we picked up some of the larger bones, pelvis and whatnot, and we strapped them to the sides of our pack, and we put the egg in a large fruit can that we use for roaring up red stags. We lined this tin with a bit of tussock, and we put that back in our packs, and we proceeded on hunting up the valley. We got back to Queenstown and went round to see Josh's dad and showed him these bones that we had. He quickly told us, call the Otago Museum. There's a guy with these white gloves turned up to inspect the bones, and he packed them away and took them back to Dunedin. And it was a month or so later that I got a late night phone call from the museum telling me how significant this find was and that they wanted to make an expedition. So significant, in fact, that they hadn't done an expedition in nearly 30 years. The following summer, the museum sent a team to Queenstown, and we proceeded to jump in a helicopter and head off into the Mount Aspiring National Park to retrieve the rest of these bones. Once we'd set up some gear, I took them down to the site and showed them where we'd found these bones. The head scientist that we brought with us started to recover more bones from the site, which he got very excited about. And with more peering, he could actually look down an open pit just beside where we found the bones, and he could see a skull. So this made the find even more significant.
There's a few parts, including the skull and a couple of vertebrae, that have slid down a very narrow little crack. We're going to have to put together a little fishing rod, a cup on the end of a stick, basically, high-tech stuff, and go fishing for it.
We spent a few hours at the site recovering these bones, and set back to Queenstown, and I wasn't to hear anything more for a few months until they eventually called me and said, hey look, we've articulated the bones, come down and look at them. I was just blown away by the job they'd done. Even today, many years later, it's one of the most viewed exhibitions in the museum.
The upland moa that Josh and Jono found up in the North Routeburn Valley was a super significant find for a few reasons. So one of those is that the moa was more or less complete. It was found on its own. It was the only individual in the cave, so we can be certain that all of the bones that she has are associated with her. Probably more significant than just that on its own is the fact that she also had an egg associated with her. So it's presumed that that egg was inside of her when she died and has been preserved with her ever since. This upland moa is one of the most popular pieces in this exhibition hall, and that's because it shows the current thinking as to how moa stood, their gait and their posture. Historically, these mounts were a lot more upright and a lot more grandiose. Upland moa are typically found in caves, so it was a good find by those boys by poking their head into that cave to have a look.
But we're all packed up, heading home that day and look back up the valley and you can't miss it. There's this big couloir that leads straight to the top of Mount Somnus. The couloir comes down to the bottom of the valley, and then right up on the opposite side is where the cave and the moa bones and the eggs were. And I said to Jono, I was like, mate, I'm coming back to snowboard that one day. And it only took 17 years, and I did it. So the couloir is like smack bang in your panoramic view from when you're sitting at the Flats hut. You're looking up the valley and you can't miss it. Aesthetically, this thing is a big gap in the rocks that leads you straight up into the glacier. And I guess that was formed from, millions of years of tectonic plates moving and rubbing together, and ice ages. Now you've got this beautiful looking ice snow couloir that just screams to you that you want to snowboard this. But we started 3 years earlier, and you can plan in New Zealand all you want, but if the weather doesn't play ball, it's not going to happen. So it took us 3 years to complete the expedition. Year one, spring was just gnarly, unpredictable winds, snow, just not working out for us. So failure, not happening. Year two, we finally make it to the couloir. My good friend Blair comes with us. We camp out. It's all seeming like it's going to be great the next day. We get up there, temperature spike, avalanche nearly takes us out.
We hear this almighty big rumble. We look at each other and we're like, must be an airplane. Next thing we know, avalanche is coming down the couloir, big old chunks of snow rolling down at great knots of speed. We jump under this big rock under here, take cover, and watch it slide by us. The heart's pretty pumping at the moment, and we kind of made a call that it's probably better safe to go home and come back for the third year in a row next year and try and knock the bastard off.
Reflecting after that was a low. I can still remember hiking out, just reflecting on like, what are we going to do? Are we going to be able to finish this? Like, we got to come back. The story's not finished, it's not told yet. But patience is key if you want to get anything done in the New Zealand backcountry. You've got to be able to say no sometimes, which is one thing I have learned, is be able to say no. No one wants to die in the mountains, and they're always going to be there, so you can always come back. The third year, we get to the bottom of the couloir with my friend Steve Skelton, commitment free, baby on the way, tick the bucket list. And it was perfect conditions. It was a cold night, there's a southerly, and we start working our way up the couloir. You are right in the middle of danger zone. On either side, you've got these big sheer cliffs, that funnel straight down into where you're hiking up. And it's deep snow. We're post-holing, finding these big cracks and like opening up holes on the way up. But the snow was cold and dry, but it was hard work. We were, ploughing a trench for, it felt like 4 hours with ploughing. And you're basically just climbing a Stairmaster for the day. Up on top, she was a bit wind-scoured, but firm, so crampons on, and we just up onto the summit. And when you're on the summit, I can still remember, it was a beautiful day. We could see all the way out to the coast, Martins Bay, down into Milford, up the Dart, Earnslaw over there, Aspiring over there.
Here we are on the summit. Beautiful thing to do, to tick it off. 2 years ago, it was bad weather. We tried to come back last spring with avalanched out. And this year, it's been a bloody good winter here in the Wakatipu.
And so we clip in, we ride right off the very top, right off the summit. down across the glacier and then into the couloir. And the couloir was loaded. We drop into mint snow. It was awesome on a snowboard, steep, just great powder with good dry winter snow. And that was one of the runs of my life, I'd say. Very special. You get to the bottom and I can just remember this weight coming off my shoulders. And I've got a photo of me just like, yes, you beauty! So it was pretty epic to know that it was done and dusted.
That was awesome!
Monkey off my back. Yeah, it feels bloody awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked. We've done it. Snow was real good in the guts of it. And no consequences.
I guess we're just curious beings, really, wanting to know what's over that ridge and what's up that valley and what's on that glacier, what's up that couloir, what's in that cave. It was pretty cool being down in the museum and talking to the experts, and they were like getting excited about it, which really sent it home to me and made me realise, you know, how lucky we were to find it. Because we could have just walked past the cave and not even gone in there, and then nothing would have happened. The fact that we were interested and did want to know what was in there, and just following our noses, it's basically, I guess, how people discovered other countries and anything, you know. It's cool to know that mowers were walking around, you know, in the alpine environment thousands of years ago, right where we were. The mountains have definitely got me hooked. I grew up here and I could have gone anywhere. The North Branch of the Routeburn it's a pretty special place to me. It's aesthetics, it's massive big granite cliffs that come up from the bottom of the valley. Big glaciers right up on top of the peaks. And there's some hidden gems up there for sure. There's a great gateway to you know, pushing your limits and pushing yourself, and multiple lifetimes of ventures to be done and bucket lists to tick. But just being out and about and doing it, it's who I am, it's who we are, and it fills me up. It's like you might be getting drained, like hiking up this couloir for 4 hours, but mentally you're getting charged. You're like, those batteries are getting charged up again. It's like a little bit of time off from life, come back and you've got a clear head, you're good to go again. You know, it's like, it just juices me up. I'm meant to be. It's hard to explain. Just meant to be out there doing it. It's awesome.